Welcome to another Memo Chatcast. I'm Thomas Karakolis, and with me, as always, Dr. Blake Martin. How's it going, Blake?
Great, Dr. Karakolis. How you doing?
Doing well. This week's chat is going to start from just an interesting idea that you and I have been bantering back and forth for a little while now. We've been
Yeah,
trying to do this
yeah,
talk for about a month or two,
yeah,
and it's the idea of motivation behind exercise and
yeah,
almost like the psychology of exercise. And why do some people really love it and like are addicted to it, I would almost say,
yeah,
and other people dread it and just think it's actually the worst. And
exactly.
there's a reason why we don't use even the word exercise in memo.
Well,
We try not to, at least.
well, and I think another thing that we have to recognize and we have to talk about right off the top is this hypokinetic disease where people
It's a
are,
big word.
yeah, hypokinetic. Hypo means low, kinetic means movement, and
Was hypo the
disease.
opposite of hyper? I got you.
Yeah, and so there's this disease that they're beginning to recognize. Started recognizing it as early as 1961, where this isn't my research. This is like lots of other people's research, and it's not even my area. But this idea that um, that not moving is a problem, and its movement is actually going down across societies and across people. So yeah.
I believe all of that. That makes 100% sense to me, almost intuitively. So I'm glad that people have been doing this research for the last
To confirm your
1961 to
biases.
2021. Yeah, yeah, exactly. So I do. I said this to you right before we started chatting, and I'll say it again while we're recording. I love it when data confirms my biases. But yeah, so this kind of started, and I read an article about endurance sports
Yeah,
and triathlons and marathons, and they really had some key demographics that are more into doing these endurance sports, and
yeah,
a lot of it had to do with like a lot of Silicon Valley, like rich type investment guys. I don't even know what to call them. Definitely not you or me, that's for sure. Um, they're really into these sort of sports, and even like the average salary of a triathlete, let's say, that competes at a race on any given weekend is relatively high. And I know you're going to get into some of this stuff in more detail, but just generally, it's why do certain people kind of gravitate towards being more physically active than
exactly.
others, and what are their motivations?
Yeah.
And I haven't done much research further on that, not as much as you have, but I'm just curious as to what's your thought in that area.
Yeah, so there's lots there. There's lots to unpack. So your
Hmm.
age has something to do with it. At certain ages, you're just more likely to be active, and you can think of that even in terms of what you've got going on in your family. If you're wrestling with a 2-year old and trying to get them into a diaper, you're you're does I mean you might be motivated to get outside and get away, but your energy to do it might be less. And so it's understandable, at a certain age you're going to have more or less energy for that sort of thing. Your sex and gender, they both impact it. Your health status, like how you are, your health overall. So if you're not as healthy, you're less likely to want to exercise or have activity. And then there's a couple of things. Previous history of exercise. So if you ran around a lot as a little kid, you're more likely to want to do it as an older person, and so that kind of history plays into it. There's socioeconomic status. So again, you mentioned those guys in Silicon Valley, right? And so those guys, um, they have money, and they can pay for health, and they can pay for food, and they can pay for bicycles and airplanes to go cool places. Like a lot of people say that marathoning and triathlons are just excuses to go do exercise in different cool countries. And if you don't have the money to do that, you can't do that, right? Like, I mean, it becomes becomes a whole different challenge.
Yeah,
So
I heard a stat that, just to interrupt really quickly,
yeah, do it.
the average marathon, I think, a person that competes in it spends about $1,000 or $1,500. It's like
That's
an absurd amount of money
that's
when you think all you
crazy.
really need is running shoes and like $150 to enter. But between travel and training and everything else, they are actually surprisingly cost prohibitive types of
Yeah.
sports to participate in.
I mean, just getting out and running. I mean, you've got
That's free.
well, it is, except for you've got to pay for at least shoes so that you don't get bad feet or bad knees from running in bad shoes, right? And if you want to run in the winter, then you need technical clothing that's going to protect you, right?
Hmm.
So I mean, it's not free, not in Canada, anyways. Like I mean, it gets cold here, and if I'm going to run at -26, I'm going to be layered up, and so over the years, I've accumulated the crap that I need to run at that temperature. But man, I couldn't do it right off the bat. I couldn't afford it.
True. And I think the other thing you need is time. And this is where socioeconomic
Exactly.
status really
Yeah.
plays in, because
Yeah.
as what would be considered somewhat white collar workers, you and I have the time where we could block off a part of our day. And we
Yeah.
both done this at work, where we'll block off an hour or an hour and a half or whatever, let's say between noon and 1, or 11:30 and 1, and we can do some sort of endurance activity. And usually the places we work have gym or shower facilities that
Yep.
we can access. And I don't think that's necessarily available to everybody. So there's that
Yeah.
as another way. Like, it's not necessarily just a motivation, it's also, I guess, an access or ability to do it.
Yeah, and so you're exactly right. And there another thing that plays into it as well is societal norms. So
Hmm.
what is
Hmm.
normal in your society? What is normal in your community? If you get out in some communities and run, it's like, okay,
What's
well,
wrong with you?
why would you do that? And in other communities, it's just dangerous to get out and run. And so,
Hmm.
like, whether just from environmental conditions or from intervention by even the police sometimes, where running can have serious outcomes. But I don't want to get all political, and I just kind of did. But the point is that it's not necessarily like even socialization plays a role in that. So it becomes really important how urban your area is. If you're in a super suburban area, and or you're in Arizona or somewhere in the United States where it's really hot, you can't go out. You can't go outside and run, right? It'll kill you
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
you're in the desert. So, oh, I'm just going to yank my earphone out there. Ow. Um, yeah. Um, so these are even industrialization, the amount of industrialization in your city will determine this stuff. So all this stuff plays into it. And then, okay, here's the kicker. Genetics plays into it too.
Okay, you gotta explain that a little bit to me, because I actually don't fully understand how
Yeah.
genetics plays into it.
So some people are part of families apparently that don't tend towards activity. You're part of a group of people that does not tend toward activity.
But that's not a learned behavioral type of thing. You're saying that that's an actual genetic
They
um,
are
predisposition.
that's the way I am understanding it from the
Okay.
research. Yeah. So it's I'll have to look into that more. I'll have to look into the citation that says that and understand exactly. So I was reading from a paper, and they cited another paper that said that genetics plays a role. And
That's an interesting point that you're making, though, because I want to link this back to our conversation. I think it was last week or 2 weeks
yeah,
ago, when we talked about the idea of physical activity and exercise and mental health, and how you
yeah,
and I both kind of recognize and acknowledge and build into our daily routines and essentially our lifestyles that we need to be physically active to maintain our mental health or improve our mental health sometimes
yeah,
when it's not so great. And I've always kind of thought, and again, these are my personal biases, so I'm hoping no one's taking this as like I'm expressing a scientific position here. This is more just me kind of thinking aloud. I've always thought it's kind of a learned behavior that we picked up over time where um, at some point in our lives we started realizing it's like, hey, like I've been going for a couple runs and I feel a lot better. And then you go for an extended period where you don't run for, let's say, a week or two, and you're like, oh, I'm just really irritable and agitated. And I don't know what the difference is. And then eventually, either consciously or subconsciously, we figure out it's like, oh, it's because I haven't run in 2 weeks. Or even if it's like a weekend and or a full day where I'm just kind
Right.
of lazing around, I'm driving or sitting on the couch or whatever. I'm like, I just I'm in a bad mood, and I realize, and for me it's even on a conscious level where I know that sometimes when my mental state isn't where I want it to be, whether it's me being in a bad mood or me not being able to focus the way I want to focus, I know that getting out there and running, even like 5, 6, 8K, like a relatively short run,
Yeah.
will instantly change my mood.
Yeah.
And you're saying that potentially there's also a genetic component to that.
Yeah, so I just found the section in the paper. I was just kind of scanning there. If you were watching my eyes, I was flitting all over the screen. Um, so yeah, so twin and family studies show that there's genetic factors that contribute in variation in daily activity levels, and that there's heritability estimates that show that there can be up to a 30% component if your parents were into it and liked it, that you are likely to like it as well, even from people who were separated at birth, right?
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the heritability. So it's not just a cultural thing. Your family did it, but so adoption studies show it as well. That there's substantial the sense of reward that you get from activity. It's much increased in certain families, like how good you feel about doing it. Um, and they have good evidence for genetic contribution, but they don't have a candidate gene yet. They just but there's some stuff that's starting to point towards candidate genes. They just haven't. They haven't completely surveyed the genome in a way that relates to that yet. So
Okay, that's
it's
really cool.
it's kind of it is kind of cool, but I think the thing that where we should be cautious is we shouldn't say, okay, it's genetic and therefore I don't need to do it,
Mm,
right? Like,
yeah.
you
Or
know,
like it's almost like you could use it as an excuse, be like, "Oh, I'm genetically predisposed to not being physically active,
yeah,
so I'm just
yeah,
not going to do it because
yeah,
it's too difficult."
right. And I guess again we get on this whole thing, the difference between activity and exercise, and I would like to think that maybe some people really don't want to quote unquote exercise. They don't want to get out there and push weights, or they don't want to run 10K, but to get into the garden or to go for a really beautiful walk, or to try canoeing or kayaking or something like that. These things that enrich our lives in other ways. That to play around on a skateboard or to shoot some hoops, or these things where we can interact and we can try something new and challenge ourselves that aren't exercise. I think that's really important, and even you can get pleasure. So there's this whole other thing that I don't think we're going to have time to get into today, but there's all this stuff around self-efficacy and self-determination that contributes to our ability to really enjoy exercise. And after we kind of deal with all these kind of components of our sex, our age, where we grew up, what our family is, then there's other stuff that we kind of do have more control over, and we can look at that, and that could be really interesting in terms of how do we feel about exercise.
Yeah, just given the amount of time we've already spent speaking about this, I'm thinking. Do you remember a few weeks ago we did a few chats in a row about
Yeah,
repetitive strain injury, and we started
I remember.
unpacking the topic and realized that it was going to be far too much for one single chat, to
Yeah.
try and keep these in a almost bite-sized chat. So, do you want to um, tease that a little bit right now, but
Yeah,
maybe we'll go into a lot more depth next week on exactly what we're going to be talking about.
sure. I mean, I think there's a little bit more to be said, even within like within the whole thing of just kind of like um, within the things that we were saying before. So even like what country you grew up in, depending on the level of whether it's a higher income country or a lower income country, that actually has impact on it too. So I mean, this is not it's not simple.
Yeah,
And to just kind of come out as North American guy and say, "Oh, it's X or Y. Just get on your bike, whatever," or grab your 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 hockey stick and your $600 worth of hockey equipment. Is that how much does hockey equipment cost? Do you have any idea?
I haven't bought hockey equipment in years, but to that point, though, you're right. It actually has a lot to do probably with the country that you grow up in. And
Yeah,
I know there's been a lot of debate, especially like when I was in my later years of high school and even undergrad. It was in the media, they talked a lot about physical activity gym class in schools. And I know in Canada, sometimes we struggle with prioritizing it as much as I think we should, at
yeah,
least. And there are other countries that do a much better job. Australia is an example. I know this would have been around like the time of the Olympics in 2000 and
right.
like early 2000s. And a lot of what we heard was, and I don't know if this is true or not, because I've never actually dug deep into it, but it was that in Australian schools, especially youth, they really promoted physical activity, sport, and exercise specifically. And I found, at least growing up, that it would have been nice to have more time throughout our day to do sport and exercise. Like I know
Yeah.
in when I was in high school, grade 9, there was only one gym class you were required to take. That wasn't a requirement throughout all of high school. And I always found that to be quite curious. And I wonder how that affects us going through the rest of our lives.
Well, yeah, sure. And but or to like take someone who comes from a country where transportation is principally done on foot and by
Oh,
bicycle,
yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like that's how you get everywhere. You walk there or you ride your bike there, and your work is physical. So you don't perceive physical activity as being the luxury that you and I perceive it as, right? So there's these there's cultural things that determine how we feel about physical activity too, and even if you might even make it to a place where you don't have to ride a bicycle everywhere, where you can buy a car, where you're successful enough, and then you might even say, okay, well, why would I ride a bicycle
But some people
anymore?
still choose to, though, right?
Well,
Like
yeah,
there are
that's
people we work with specifically that
yeah,
can afford to drive a car to work, but they're going to choose to take their bike instead. And that's, to me, I think that's an interesting topic that I'd like to explore further another week as well. Is
yeah, yeah,
why do certain people make that choice to commute
right.
via, like, I forget what the term I'm looking for right now is, but basically like active transport, where
Yeah, active
you're
transport,
transporting yourself.
grabbing those molecules and pulling them across the cell membrane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that's what I meant to say. No, there's like there's a term for it, and I can't think of it right now. But there's
Yeah.
the idea, and I'm gonna look this up for next week. But
Okay.
there's an idea where instead of sitting in a car or a bus or a train or whatever, you walk or bike
Yes.
or run or
Yeah.
whatever to
Yeah.
get to your
No,
places. And so,
I do know, and I've done it.
mhm,
I've done it.
yeah. Oh, you do it all the time. I'm sure of it. Okay. On that note, any last thoughts?
Um, I think it's important to understand that it's if you're wrestling with trying to, if you're struggling with the idea of trying to be active physically, and that's something within you um, where you're battling with that, to understand that it's not just simple. It's not just a matter of turning the switch and
Hmm.
saying, okay, today I want to do it. It's complex,
Hmm.
and
Hmm.
it's based on a lot of things out of your past. But next week we'll talk about some things out of choice, the things that you can do, and even attitudes that you can take if that's available to you, where it can actually change the way you feel about exercise and your likelihood of success in activity.
Yeah, great advice and great note to leave it on. I'll see you next week, Blake.
Yeah, you will. Have a
Bye.
great week.
You too.